I can record. I can
Yes,
do it on my
that's
end.
right.
That's also good. And then
Okay,
you can get it.
sure.
Then you tell me, I list it on Google and can send it to the people who would like to get it. It's probably the
Perfect,
easiest.
perfect. Okay. For anybody asking about recording, we are recording this session as it was postponed from yesterday to today. So we just
Oh,
want to make sure that everybody who registered for this webinar can follow it.
exactly. Yeah. And I'll be super happy. So I'm recording
Hi,
locally,
Valeria.
so I will list it on YouTube then, so everybody can
Perfect.
get the link then. Exactly. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I mean, the topic is kind of clear. We're going to talk about whether a portfolio career makes sense or not. And maybe you want to quickly write in the chat where you are joining us from, as we let lots of people in. I see the participants count is growing and growing. Maybe let's have a look. Who is here? UK, Istanbul, Madrid, Merhaba, hola. It's always nice to see how, there's people all over the world actually reflecting about this topic. Switzerland, hello. Who is Jérôme? Hi, Jérôme. Yeah, okay, nice. Yeah, from the team
Great to see you
Bucharest.
again.
Hello, hi. So, yeah, it's always nice. UK, uh, super cool. So I see we're about 17 more are.
There are more people joining, but I'll just admit them as you go. No worries about
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So I really let you do that. I guess
Yeah.
that's totally fine. And what I'm going to do is also join on my other screen just in case. I hope that works without registration. I'm not sure actually.
Sorry, will you be sending us a copy of this afterwards? Just because I might need to leave before the end, that was all. Will you be sending us a copy of the recording?
Sonia, I don't know how you want to
Yeah,
handle
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean,
So Andrea said that I mean she's recording it on her computer. She will upload it
mhm.
on YouTube
Yeah,
and then we can send the link definitely.
exactly. Yeah. Then maybe that's the easiest way to do. So I'm muted on my other laptop. So let's see. And I think I will.
I'm just curious in the meantime if there's anybody joining our webinars for the first time
Mhm. Oh, yes, please, Sonia.
because I see some familiar faces, but I'm just wondering if anybody's here for the first time.
Oh, yeah, please maybe raise your hand or.
Then I'm glad to see that most of you are joining our. Oh, Inge, thank you for joining us.
Well, welcome, Inge. Great to see. Oh, bonjour à Paris. Okay, I see. So we have quite some countries. That's great. So, well, wonderful. And again, officially very warm welcome. And maybe the next question, after knowing where you're all joining us from, is really, well, are you already in a portfolio career? Would you say about yourself that you are in a portfolio career? Feel free to share in the chat. And I'm just going to open the chat on this screen so I can follow everything. No, okay. Inge clearly says no, no. Nice. So that's going to be super interesting also to understand what it actually is and how it can help you. And from there, shall I wait another minute, Sonia? I see people are still joining. Would you like me to
Still
wait? Or is
joining, but it's recorded, so we
It's
can go
recorded, right?
ahead
So
and
I would
yeah,
also say out of respect of everyone who is here already, that
yeah.
after 3 minutes warm up, knowing that we have lots of female entrepreneurs from all over Europe, at least, let's go into it. And yeah, well, if I ask you whether you're already in a portfolio career, usually one of the first questions that come is, of course, hey, what is a portfolio career actually, right? What I refer to as a PFC, and I really like to look at it from a distinguished way. So I know there has been a more traditional definition, And I bring it, although it doesn't solely apply on entrepreneurs having a portfolio and being portfolio entrepreneurs with a portfolio career. You can see here the old definition to your left, or the old, I mean, it's been existing for quite a while, the portfolio career definition that kind of shifts traditional work to portfolio work. And their argumentation has been, you know, one main job, multiple sources of income. I mean, yes, that's true. But if we take already the lens of an entrepreneur, usually you also have multiple sources of income in terms of multiple clients, multiple products, right? So that's not necessarily fully new as opposed to like being an employee. But the other things, you can also have a portfolio career, and it doesn't exclude that you only work for yourself or only work for someone else. It can even be a mix, right? It could be that to a small extent, you are even employed in an organization, maybe as an expert, maybe, you know, in terms of a board of directors position, but it could also be that you are employed because you're really part of some very expert department. Then the third part again of this rather traditional definition, office-based, whether remote, I would totally challenge that, because sometimes I have participants in my coaching that tell me, hey, I want to be part of a team again. I have been an entrepreneur, run my own business for XYZ years now, and I miss having being part of a team. With my small team, I had all the responsibility, and I also want to have a peer. So even there, it's not necessarily. And then also the last point, well, repetitive daily grind versus every day is different. You know, even here, I would say, you know, the bookkeeping comes back every month. Some things will always be there. So I don't want to also sell that the grass is greener on the other side. And very clearly, we will also look at the reality check that a portfolio career is not the solution for everything. And you see that rather traditional definition of portfolio careers looks at lots of factors that I challenged. And I was like, okay, so if I don't really fully agree with that definition, what is it then that how would I define a portfolio career? And what I came up with, and this was published as a part of, you know, my certification in positive psychology, where I really researched, well, when does having a portfolio career give people more life satisfaction? And that's really, on the one hand, I decided to look at it into skills and context, which is what you can see on the matrix to your right. And you see it's really about, well, a portfolio career is about consciously having different context in some way. And it can be that you move from an existing context to a new context, but it could also be that you remain in an existing context and add up new skills. I'll make some examples. Let's say you are a bookkeeper. Your E-zone is that you work as a bookkeeper for various clients. And it could be that you start, you know, to specialize in terms of skills for a new country where you could do like tax law or something and really add on that and really do it under a new brand. That's when I would really call it a portfolio career if we take it from the lens of entrepreneurs, right? So I also talk to individuals that I don't just see as entrepreneurs, then it's different. But for you, that would really mean building up a new brand. Or it could be that you say, hey, I don't just add new skills, but I actually want a new context. It could be that you have a gardening business and now you want to not only, go to people's homes, redo their gardens, but actually train them, offer online trainings on how to grow vegetables and so on. That would bring you to the C zone. And of course, the end zone is also possible. We will get to that when you really want to build something new. So you see, there's been existing definitions, and I really wanted to shape and distinguish that. And what's also important, I have not invented the term. It really dates back to the 1990s, where already Charles Handy spoke about the portfolio concept in terms of having multiple roles. And if there's one thing we women are good at, is having multiple roles, because usually we have the role of the mother, the entrepreneur, whatever it is, right? We really have many different roles. And well, let me introduce myself then, because I know I jumped right into the topic. And now let me tell you who is sharing expertise with you. So my name is Andreia Fernandes. I founded Brand International about 12 years ago. And I built my portfolio career quite consciously in over a decade. And why is that important? It's probably important because at the very beginning, 10 years back, what I would mostly hear was like, oh, Andrea, you really cannot decide what you want to do. Huh? And maybe you've heard that as well if you have multiple interests. And I realized, no, actually, everything I do kind of contributes to shaping my expertise. So I've written a book chapter on failure culture where I also do workshops. That's one side. But then I'm also a facilitator very generally for workshops, for team building workshops. I've been a manager in various ways. I've been the managing director of an NGO, but I mean, today I just manage two of my own companies. I work as a coach. I'm a lecturer at various universities here in Zurich as well. In terms of entrepreneur, I've had a fashion label that has nothing to do with my business, as you may imagine, if I work with strategy and leadership. I've built myself an angel investing portfolio. I also occasionally work as a mentor, and I'm, of course, the manager of a family. And that's really where this split already starts, where you see I have different skills, but also in different contexts. And that's important because, yeah, we can take one step back and think, okay, I just need to find a job in a corporation where I can do a variety of things if this is my need. But here it's really also about having different contexts. So again, to that. And well, after everything you heard, well, what is a portfolio career maybe in your opinion? What do you think is missing about what I said? And I'm just having a look at the chat. And I see Valeria is already asking, is it correct to think that in general entrepreneurs develop portfolio careers? And I would say no. In general, entrepreneurs develop a portfolio of things, but not necessarily portfolio careers, because portfolio careers would really mean you have more than one brand. If one brand fails, you are diversified. And you have for sure a portfolio of activities, also products maybe, but not that. So yeah, Alison, exactly, a family manager, because that's what it is, right? Yeah, but back to the question, and feel free to type in the chat. I see we're quite numerous, so that's probably the easiest way to do. I see questions, but what is a portfolio career in your opinion? I just showed you my perception, and is there anything you feel is missing that should also be added? I give you a second also to think and breathe. And I see some of you are spending your lunch breaks with us. Bon appetit. And it's great. Okay, personal projects. Yeah. Using all of your skills, experience, and interests to feed into the total capabilities and value in any context. Yeah. Usually you bring everything together. Yeah. That's already quite a starting point. Alison is adding a personal project, which can, of course, also be, yeah, Valeria, best case, they are connected and you have a red thread. Exactly. Susan is adding multiple revenue streams, clearly, with a portfolio career. We really try to de-risk even more. I mean, my portfolio career also survived COVID quite well, and it was because I had diversified before. Having two freelance roles, yes, that is a portfolio career, absolutely, because you are in two different roles, one in-house and one is included, absolutely. So I think we already have some agreement, and there was not much you want to challenge on that definition. And usually it's really about, well, how to look at it from a starting point perspective. And of course, if you want to add a new context, then you'll focus on building up your network. If if you want to add a new skill to your portfolio, work on a new skill, it's going to be the learning. Of course, it may be that you have a portfolio career, although you are in the existing skill set and in the existing context. That would be, for example, let's say you are a teacher, a math teacher in 2 different schools, right? You have a diversification already because you have 2 totally different employers. The same also if you want to really build a new context and new skills, then it's really going to be important to focus. And I already told Sonia I'm about to lose my voice, so I will be drinking from time to time so I can keep going. And what's important here, it looks very new and very, very, very time intense, but what's important, it's always been there. I have one study, from 2017. What's important here, this is a US-based study, and we know in the US, of course, a portfolio career is quite differently from what we find in Europe. They are much further in diversifying, and you can see here a lot of different roles where we really see, well, there is a lot of diversity in terms of skill set and in terms of context, and that's really what's important. They've always been there. What's new is that we're getting more and more aware about it. And again, that's where I wanted to really research a bit and gather intelligence. Well, what does it mean for us in Europe? I mean, being in Switzerland, it was a bit biased, of course, and I had a majority in Switzerland, but I started to gather data and really find out, well, what do people do in order to successfully transition into portfolio careers? What do they think they do? You can see I had approximately 300 participants. Right after the Swiss, the second largest group in, I think, 50 participants was actually UK. Half of them knew what a portfolio career is, the other half not. You also see that the majority is female and generation-wise. And my study was really a bit a reality check, because you can see when we ask about building the careers, linear careers, which would be being employed, of course, are much faster. Portfolio careers are seen as harder to create. They are more difficult because it's not just I apply to one job, I get that one job and I'm done, right? Building a portfolio career is quite a journey, but it can be a very rewarding journey if you go there. So from here, we went on, and I'm just going to show you some key questions, right, which really help with that reality check. They also take longer to build, as you can see here. A vast majority really believes that it takes much longer. Again, it's in the nature of building the portfolio career. That's a very important one. They are set to offer less security, but we have to really say that's in the beginning, right? The moment you start building, so probably the first 12 months, you will feel that you have less security because you're giving maybe up something that was kind of working to build up a portfolio with things that you might have to iterate. So the financial security point was quite important, but what's even more important is that idea, and this is the green bar you can see, there is a big lack of offering. This model is clearly underserved also in the corporate world. Let's say you are a communications expert and you would like to also be part of a team in a specific company, in an industry where you do maybe, 40% part-time or so. That's still quite hard to find unless the people know you already, because this is the other perspective that I would hear many people until maybe 2 years ago telling me, hey, I'm scared. If I start my own thing, I fear that no potential employer ever will employ me again because they just think I only want to be independent. And of course, building a portfolio career means really wanting to have both together. And that brings me to the next question. Portfolio careers in Europe have had that cliche of, well, you're between jobs, that's why you're doing it. And that's really where the next question, well, is a portfolio career a persistent career model? Very clearly, 91% of the respondents said yes. So this is not just, a transition period that you have a portfolio of things until you find that one full-time job, but it's really a model that people build consciously, and I can totally relate to that. So I think that's one of the key important points, which also brings us to the next thing. When we look at the mega trend map from the Future Institute, and we look at all the aspects the future of work has, right? For example, there is gig economy, and I would clearly say that's where we differentiate, because gig economy means I am freelancing from project to project, but a portfolio career also means that I define which types of pillars of activities I want, and I follow up them. Yes, it can also mean that different gigs come, but that's much more framed and really consciously built, which is quite important. I gave you some data, and basically I'm not going to bore you with all the outcomes of the study. It was a 25 question questionnaire. What's important to me is really to look at, okay, what I need to ask myself if I want to have a portfolio career or not today, and especially in this context, I'm really taking the perspective of an entrepreneur is, well, what are my needs, in terms of what are the key strengths that I bring to the table? Do I really have this need of having different things, or do I consider building a portfolio career because I'm scared? Or is it like, are you dragged or driven into a portfolio career? And that's super important, that you consciously build it around things that give you energy, that really help you also kind of cross-fertilize the topics. That's super important, right? So one topic benefits from the other. Maybe you even manage to upsell within your clients. That could be one way, but it can really also mean that, you can integrate it vertically or horizontally, depending on what you do, that you go back on your supply chain or similar. That's really the important part from a portfolio career perspective. So I'm not going to bore you here with all the scientific things. This was the official poster when I presented, but I really want to move on and think, okay, well, what does it mean in practice, right? So, and from more than 300 coachings that I've had, meanwhile, I always hear, well, but I don't know where to start, and does it have to be employment, or must it only be self-employment? Does it work in my specific industry or profession too? That's the other question that people get to me and think, oh, you can do it, but I think in my industry it's not going to work. And most of the time we realize, hey, it's more a question of how do I as an individual make it work for myself, which is super important, right? And I want to invite you all to really think of it, because what are the struggles we usually have once we decide to diversify? First of all, it's that lack of clarity. Well, which roles do I put in my portfolio? And you need to be crystal clear about them so you can confidently also communicate them, right? You don't want to have that one client, oh, I saw you also do this other thing, and you're like, oh, yeah, I actually do it, but you're kind of hiding it. It needs to be very clear how you communicate it. It's important to manage your energy, and this is such a key point, right? People burn out because they have too many things. So it's really going to be how much of my time do I devote to which of those parts? So I remember when I had my sustainable startup, I always said I commit 20% of my time to exactly that, and not more, because I had other commitments, and also because this was more or less consistent with the income it would generate. So that's an important aspect. Of course, the financial insecurity, it's important, to have backward calculation and clarity. And then, of course, job and project uncertainty. It's what often motivates people, but don't go towards a portfolio career just because of that. I think that's super important. And the other thing, yes, I said social pressure, right? And that's really where I started. And you can see that picture here with the canvas. Let me actually offer you a bit more of a deep dive because I had all those insights from the research and I really wanted to pack it into a practical tool. And what I came up with was this portfolio career canvas. And as an entrepreneur, one of your key questions to start with is really going to be, what is your why to have a portfolio career? Do you have that intrinsic need to actually do different things? Because it could very well be that, let's say you're a bookkeeper and you're actually happy with that. Maybe you just want to expand industry in terms of business development, but you don't want to actually have a portfolio career of different things under different brands, right? So this is where I usually spend most time when I do my online course on portfolio careers, because it's so important to understand. As I said, it takes longer, takes more energy, is more difficult. But once you have a strong why, this can really be very rewarding and brings you to the next question, to the how. Well, which skills do I already have that help me, that support me? What are the strengths that really support me in building that portfolio career? And from there, you see, we really define what are the development areas that I need to look at, which roles do I define for myself, and followed also by the income streams. It might be helpful to really define the time and energy allocation. Of course, the products you offer, that's clear. And from there, look into, do I sell to different audience, or is it maybe the same audience, but a different project? Create a group of peers, that's quite important. And the last point where you see the puzzle, well, what makes a portfolio career successful for you? This is really one of my favorite questions, because I always say you start it, but you have to leave the option that you stop it again. And that's really one of the big questions. What would make you stop having a portfolio career again? If you started it and you realize, hey, it's actually not satisfying me. And that often means, people who have done like the whole course with me, they always say, hey, what really helped me in that course was redefining success for me. So the question is, what is success for myself? Not for society, but for myself. And that's super important here. What does that mean, right? How to get there? Really create your own career architecture. You should tailor the canvas to your own goals. That's going to be super important. And explain your career to any audience confidently. That's the next point. So don't have things that you doubt yourself for, but really set yourself up for success in terms of, okay, these are the 2 or 3 areas I'm active in. And of course, it's really about shaping. How do I position my brand? How can I make this come across as a whole thing? That's super important. And it's also important to know, hey, we need to allow for iterations. As you can imagine, building a portfolio career really also can mean that I start something or try something and, discontinue it. So, for example, I had a sustainable fashion brand as part of my portfolio, which I decided to discontinue. Stopping that gave me space to start some new things. And with that, maybe I'll open for a quick round of questions, because I see there's been a lot also in the chat already. How Alison asked, how does one present oneself having a portfolio career? That's really the question of, putting yourself back and having, what is my umbrella brand? Then, of course, you choose. If you speak to a specific supplier or to people that look you from one specific point of view, then you only refer to that. But if you talk to people that don't know you yet, analyze which is my entry point, which of my 2 or 3 offerings is the one to start with, and then evolve. And really feel free to ask. They are all connected in some way or other. Valeria, yes, that's definitely the case. Absolutely. I'm going there. Setting clear limits is what Valeria is commenting. That's going to be important, definitely. And that's really why I have this framework, the portfolio career canvas, because I believe we need some guidance Otherwise, we can really get lost if we don't decide on clear roles. Alison is writing, for me, it's about bringing to life all my skills and capabilities for a range of projects and organizations. Yeah. Which has been suppressed by only having one job in corporate. Absolutely, yeah. That's clearly so important. Joanne, you're writing, including not only income, but also volunteer roles. Yes, I would also include volunteer roles. In the US, it's much more normal, right, to volunteer for lots of things. I think in Europe, we are a bit more reluctant. What's important is, those volunteer roles add or make visible, make a skill or trait visible that you offer that also pays into the rest of the portfolio. That's important, right? That you really look at it from that point of view, and then it absolutely adds value. Totally, yeah. And Carly's asking a great question. How do you move from the scattergun starting approach of feeling like a bag of mixed nuts to clear strategic planning? And let me move on and show you a bit what it means, right? I showed you the canvas, and behind every field, I have lots of questions that I elaborate with you, that that you can really reflect on, and that's really, first of all, what is the main motivation? Are you dragged or driven towards a portfolio career? That's probably one question. Then, of course, what is your why in terms of impact you want to have, in terms of personal value that you want to have there, and with all those questions, you really elaborate that, and that will bring you clarity already. So in some way, after doing all that inner work, and I know it's not easy and it doesn't go quickly, right? You need to allow for some time. Sometimes really about, let's go for a walk and reflect on what it really is. That really brings you the next step in terms of planning. And I'm just going to show one more of those fields, which is the how, which is also important, right? What do I have already? What do I bring to the table? What do I want to add new? And probably also, do I have an idea of how my portfolio career would look like? Or am I just thinking that I don't want to have the situation I have now? If it is very vague, but you really feel that you would love to be doing more different things, then it's about, on the one hand, of course, visualize, really think, okay, what should my work days look like? Whom do I want to be surrounded by? What are the problems I want to be solving despite what I already do? So there's also another range of things that we can look at together and start to build. And from there, if you know design thinking, it's really about, we open the bag, it gets confusing, a lot of information, and then we close it again. We filter out what are the things that really remain. One of my participants said it really beautifully. She said, the concept of ikigai and portfolio career kind of shake hands. And I really like this idea because it's true. We look at, what am I good at? What does the world need? And what can I make a living out of it, right? And that's super important. I mean, that's actually why organizations like WeConnect exist, to bring women together to be even more successful as businesswomen. So I really believe in also always thinking the business aspect as part of it. That's quite important in my view. And from here, from having shown you a bit those things, I'll go back to the questions, and maybe we can really open up to, any further questions. I really want to also have room, because I know usually when I present the portfolio career concept, lots of very individual questions come. And yet all those individual questions can be answered with insights that are super relevant for everybody else in similar situations as well. So I'm more than happy, maybe you even want to unmute yourself and ask any further questions, because I'm more than happy to provide answers from everything I've experienced in the past years helping. So you may want to either raise your hands or just unmute. I think
Andrea, I would like to
Yes.
say something. I just love this. Thank you so much. I think that the most important thing at the beginning is to understand or know ourselves and what is the value that we offer. So
Mhm,
understanding and taking the moment to really understand our mission, the ikigai
mhm.
concept. So from there, and
Yeah.
I think also has to be connected, this thing of the red thread, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
Whatever we deliver, I think at some point has to be connected to our own essence. Thank
Mhm.
you so much. I really love this concept. I didn't
You're
know about
welcome.
this before.
Okay.
I,
Yeah.
and thank you so much.
You're welcome, Valeria. And what's also important, right? I think in some way it automatically connects to everything we already bring because, you know, with my little Mandarin, I would not start, selling something in Chinese, right? There is like the gap usually it's smaller. We start in our environment, and still it's also important to allow for iterations, for, that we may fail, but probably it's not failure, but actually a lot of information that we gain, and we can really describe it as intelligence, right? Because we gathered data about the market. Maybe we tried something that hasn't worked, or we gathered data about ourselves that we don't want to handle three different topics because it's too hard for ourselves to focus. That's the other side. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then, oh, I see a brilliant question, Sarah. Thanks a lot for asking. You're asking, well, does an organization benefit from their employees having a portfolio career? And how can employees have their own portfolio career? Let me start this way. I have always had a mix of employment engagements and being self-employed. So I have my own company, but again and again, I have been employed part-time. So one example is I was employed as a job coach for the canton of Zurich in part-time for more than 4 years. And what I realized before that was that it was so important that I could confidently position myself as a portfolio careerist. That was the game changer. So if they had the impression, oh, her business isn't going well, and that's why she's looking for a part-time job, that was a totally different flow in job interviews than if it was clear, hey, I have this, but I also enjoy being part of a team where I'm not the responsible one. I have this skill that I bring to the table. This skill I do not use in my own business. So you also look into competition topics, for example. That's super important. So the moment we position ourselves as clear portfolio careerists, potential employers start to see us as an added value. So as a matter of fact, I have been offered 3 jobs since I really did that work. And, 2 times I accepted the job, then, I left after some years. And in one case, the environment wasn't necessarily what I needed. And again, that was the beauty of it. I knew, hey, I'm not fully dependent on that one part-time position. So I decided to step out. The other thing is we have a huge demographic change. So in some cases, depending on your specialist knowledge, right? I'm generalizing. Yes, employers will be happy to benefit from your knowledge, and they'd rather have a part-time person solving a problem than no one at all in certain areas. That's really where what I believe, what I'm convinced that it's gonna help. I mean, in Switzerland, we talk about a lack of specialists in many areas, and probably over Europe, it's the same, Yes, we have AI, but AI is not taking care of sick people. AI is not doing lots of things yet, right? And probably not going to solve many of these types of problems. So that's also important to keep in mind that yeah, somebody's unmuted with background noise. Good. So I really believe, yes, there is. And probably it's going to be important on one to position yourself, and also to think, if you employ people, who do I want? Someone who is actively engaged with her knowledge and, gets insights from different perspectives, or do I want someone who just has one thing and never thinks outside of the box? Of course. Let's not forget, it's important to be clear about, you don't want the person to work for your competitor, right? There will need to be rules you set up, and you need to do that work as well, but you can benefit in both ways. Then I see Jérôme, you're writing, I know some employers actually don't allow secondary work. Yes, so that's true. Some don't allow, then it doesn't work. What professional setup do you need to run a portfolio career? It really depends on your legislation, in which country you are. For example, I'm in Switzerland. I have set up a company, a limited company for my own things. But then when I'm employed, I have a contract with the respective company. So it really depends on where you are. Make sure, and that's probably the most important part, make sure that you are set up insurance-wise. What does happen if I get sick, if I have an accident, if I get pregnant, happens, right? What happens to my pension fund? All those questions, but I cannot like give you a general answer because we are in so many countries. But those are the essential things to take care of. Exactly. Let me just quickly look through the question. Well, how do you see the future of work? Valeria, very clearly, it's going to be more and more what we call also fractional, right? Maybe you've heard the term, you know, people that are fractional COOs, fractional CMOs, and that's the concept of portfolio career absolutely relived. And I think this is going to be the future also because let's say startups cannot always afford to have a full-time COO or CMO. And that's actually also answering Allison's question. Exactly. Fractional means I'm a part-time chief executive officer. So instead of, you know, if I'm a startup building a company, I will not be full-time doing that. And then again, it's the other way around. It's not that they would not allow other people to have secondary paid work, but actually invite people to do, because they'd rather have a very good CMO that maybe works for a marketing agency. So the person is actually totally into the topic in the general advertising industry and then builds up a specific brand, and the other way around. Yeah, it's not just in the US, Jerome. Fractional has actually arrived to Europe. Exactly.
No, for sure. But let's say it's all these words that spring up into day-to-day conversation that come from, you know, these big four consultants who are always trying to optimize, to use fewer words, driving, wearing hats, all these sort of things that now we end up all using.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I really think, you know, when looking at the portfolio careers from a meta level, be driven, not dragged. You really have to have that intrinsic want and passion to do various different things. If not, it can burn you out. I think that's really one question. It will teach you set clear boundaries, and that's super important, right? Otherwise you burn out, because if you start two different companies with the expectation that it will be two full-time companies, you are setting yourself up for failure. And that's why it's important to really try to draw the line. It will always be a hybrid line, right? I mean, we start something, then a big project comes, we're not going to say no, right? So that's clear. But if you have that rough version of what you want, then it's really what can help you actually sustainably build it, and also know, okay, when do I need to maybe build a bigger team so I can keep up with all of it? Inge, you're writing, you would love some inspiration. Can you perhaps share the portfolio careers you have, or what you're considering? Well, that's beautiful, Inge. Yeah, I mean, we still have some time. Feel free to add in the chat what you would like to have your portfolio career look like. Absolutely. Carly, you're saying it can also add financial stress. Yeah. Have you experienced that? Would you like to maybe specify how you mean that? I mean, yes, if you have, for example, a business that is intense in its need for investments in the beginning, then of course that's definitely clear. Oh, you're eating, sorry. We didn't mean to interrupt your lunch. Then yeah, no problem. And of course, what I'm also curious about is, you know, after hearing what a portfolio career can be, who of you feels like starting one? Who of you is curious about testing it, or who thinks, no, it's nothing for me? I mean, feel free to write in the chat. It's always interesting, right? It's not the solution for every challenge we have as female entrepreneurs or as entrepreneurs in general. I think that has to be clear, but it can help. And some people really walk away with peace of mind in terms of, hey, I have those two pillars, and it really helps me that I'm diversified. So Alison is.
Andrea, hi.
Hi,
I've finished.
yeah.
Thank you so much. This has just been like really perfect timing for me. I think a lot of I've never really labeled it as a portfolio career. I didn't really understand that term, but it's just sort of come naturally from the gut. But I think the financial thing is it's almost like when you are freelance, and sometimes I keep thinking, oh, I just go and get a full-time role. You haven't got that comfort of that continuous PAYE. That's what I was sort of talking about. And sometimes that can take my focus away, as opposed to really focusing on what I should be focusing on, but chasing that security. That's what I sort of meant. And it's quite a hard thing to move away from. But in the ideal world, you'd have something that you could have like 1 day a week, that retainer or guaranteed, as opposed to sort of just managing multiple sort of streams.
Exactly. And I think that's an important point, right? What you're saying. So when I look at my portfolio of things, I mean, let's say I'm a lecturer at university, and that really means, I mean, it's from semester to semester, but usually in January, I know how much I will earn in September from lecturing, right? So I can also kind of shape, okay, what does that mean in terms of facilitation? How many team building workshops can I actually do because of resources and because of, energy, time, and how much do I want to do? I can decide, let's say, on those months where I know I take lots of exams, so I earn more, then I can really think, okay, maybe that's the months, to create a lot of content rather than, again, have lots of thinking work in terms of moderating workshops, right? So I really try to look at my energy, my income. Then there's things I like to do, so I try to combine them. Even when I go to conferences, for example, right? I try to think, hey, what would be a good way to do them? And I think having this portfolio really helps, that it's never, oh, I should drop this one thing I'm doing, it's not working, and get a full-time job, right? As I said, I was employed in one case, it was a well-paid job, but the climate was toxic, and it's much, if it's not your full-time role, it's much easier to say, hey, I'm taking out this part of the puzzle and look for a better piece of a puzzle that will fit better, right? So that's the important part. And sometimes Murphy's Law happen, right? Sometimes I have to play Tetris in my agenda and think of, okay, 2 big important events for 2 different streams of my portfolio. But to be honest, this got much, much better. And for example, all my clients know I lecture, so they know there are some fixed dates I'm really not available, but most of the time we find space. So
Thank you.
Well, thanks also for your input. What else? Sarah is writing, I'm doing marketing for B2B and also moving into coaching people. Great. Yeah. Okay. Where you complete what you've set as a goal without all the stress, drama, and self-doubt. Thanks, Sarah. That's super important, right? To really have those areas that we feel are well. And, maybe another word on coaching. And coaching has been really growing in the past years. It's kind of inflated almost, right? And at least in Switzerland, coach is not a protected professional title. And I really also took that as an occasion to realize, hey, in the end, I could promote myself as a coach a lot, but what really has counted so far has been when people recommended me word of mouth. So I even took the active decision, hey, I stopped promoting myself. It's on my website that I work as a coach, but that's it. I don't put any efforts. And again, people come to me, ask me for coachings. And I kind of defined that I don't want to spend more than 10% of my time coaching, right? It's not scalable for many reasons. And that's also really helped, right? Think, okay, I really enjoy coaching. I love helping people. So I keep doing it, but I reduced it in favor of other projects. And that's, for example, for the portfolio career, the canvas, which I show you. For that, I even offer a 10-week course now. So that's something new that I'm doing, but that's also because of the portfolio career itself, that I could develop new programs, look into, okay, I'm not coaching people individually and so on. Jérôme, I think you're raising your hand if I see right.
Because
yes,
I didn't
please.
want to interrupt you and I was just waiting. But in essence, I think, this is a logical sort of extrapolation of, when people invest. So for those who do invest, they say you need a balanced portfolio to mitigate risk. It's the same with careers, especially as we see the disruption that's coming from artificial intelligence and all these other aspects. Also, I mean, the world is changing, every day now. The news cycle is so quick. So I think this is sort of a way to hedge. But what I wanted to mention, and it's one of the main reasons actually that we do these. So at WeConnect International, of course, for us, it's about access to opportunity. There's also the educational piece for those that weren't aware of what this is and how to build. So that's really important. But we also would love to encourage our community to buy and sell to one another, which is also a way actually to develop your own portfolio careers as well. These are smaller contracts, shorter term. These allow you these sort of, to use the word, fractional opportunities that can maybe sit on the side of, maybe larger clients. Of course, we all need that financial security and, and that peace of mind that, okay, I know that I now have that, let's say, ability to dedicate a certain percentage of my time to other aspects, because the work that I'm doing 50% of the time covers my basic costs, for example. But we really want to encourage this. This is why we also have our Weeby to Weeby Connects. This is why we are trying to leverage this more with our in-person events. And this is why we invite speakers like Andreia and so on. So each month we have these. Obviously, if there are others of you who have aspects that you would like to share that you think are really relevant to the community, you can reach out to Sonia. We already have a few scheduled for for Q1 next year. Some aspects which we think are super important, which is how corporates buy. So I think it's really insightful to get into their mind, how they buy, so that helps when we talk to them, when we discuss and so on. But and I think Andreia was already doing it, but do pop your LinkedIns in the chat, do connect with one another. That's what these are really all about. It's about building these networks, these connections. And even if, an opportunity doesn't spring today, it's about planting seeds. Who knows, maybe a week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks down the line, something comes up and you're like, oh, right, that was amazing. Why don't I introduce this person to them or X, Y, Z? So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jérôme. And actually, fun story. I have been desperately looking for a good SEO expert. And I was just thinking, actually, I should post this somewhere in your network, because I really need someone to help me with my SEO. And I was like, oh, of course, I'm going to have. So this is something I will definitely also get back to you, because I also agree that we can support each other's. Although I also think, I still see, at least this is my perspective also, being in Switzerland, I work with lots of global clients, and still I see we also need to if you want to think big, we also need to be in those industries where lots of males are involved, and not shy away from that. So yes, selling to each other's and supporting each other's, and outgrow that together in some way, right? That maybe, we bid together to others and so on. That's certainly also an important part. Absolutely. So and I also just put my LinkedIn in the chat, just in case you want to also follow. I'm actually currently also doing a couple of blog posts to talk more about what a portfolio career is. So and you see portfoliocareers.ch. That's definitely where I can help you. Well, are there more questions? I see lots of LinkedIn, so I will be happy to connect. Exactly.
Andreia, I just posted the
Yes.
LinkedIn group. It's a closed LinkedIn group for Weebies. That is important. Whenever you need something from the community, you need to buy, you want to promote your services, that's the place to do it.
Exactly. Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, we definitely should join that. Okay, that's the one you just added. And then Vivienne, I think.
Having said that, as Valeria mentioned, we use an acronym WEBI, which means certified. So this is for the certified women-owned businesses, just to point out.
Exactly. Yeah. I am now capitalizing on my experience as an opportunity to be strategic advisor and ambassador participating. Oh, great. Well, Vivienne, that's great. Also see that something that happened to you, you're using it also, yeah, to really bring your knowledge and expertise. Wow. Good. Well, are there any questions? I'm super happy to take them. I mean, you have my email address in the bottom, and as Sonia asked, we'll be also happy to share the video with you. If not, I don't know. Sonia, do you want to have some final words? Is there maybe also some, I don't know, announcements or something you still have for the next events? Is there something you still want to share?
Regarding next events, the next one, the one Jerome mentioned, would be on January 22nd. It's not uploaded on the website yet, but it will be by the end of the year. So anyway, you will receive a calendar invite at the beginning of January for that. And yeah, I'm really, really grateful that we got to do this webinar because at least for me, it was very inspirational also to see what else we can do, and that actually we can do much more with a set of skills that we have. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'm really, really happy to see that it was very interactive and everybody was comfortable to ask their questions or share their ideas. So yeah, great to see that.
And maybe just to add, this is our final event of the year. So for those of you who saw the newsletter that went out earlier this week, obviously December will be a quiet period with the office also shutting down for a period over Christmas, New Year. So thank you so much for your engagement throughout the year. It's really been wonderful. The feedback that we get is why we do this job. We're here, you know, we celebrate your successes. Your successes are what motivate us. So yeah, we're delighted that you're making the time to learn, to share, and to grow together. And yeah, we wish you all a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and some time with loved ones, some time, you know, with your businesses, and yeah, that you close out the year on a high note.
Thank you.
So,
Likewise.
thank you very much, and have
Thank
a
you so
lovely
much.
afternoon and weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye. Bye-bye.